So I've got an E54 code on this washing machine. Works for all these model numbers. If you don't know where the model number is, it's either in here on the top or around this area, or like this one, the model number's here. So anyways, we got an E54 code for any of these model numbers. So we get in this is under the top panel. This was actually folded on top here. That's where it was found. So take the top off yours, you'll find this. And E54, C54 right here. Need to check voltage. Need to check the main control on the motor. So basically this thing's not spinning and it's saying there's some issue going on with the motor. So if we come over here to this wiring diagram, we see the power comes in through here, comes into the main control board. Now over here we see our motor. So if we trace our motor back, it comes from, the power comes to the motor from the inverter, and the power to the inverter comes from the control board. So basically, if we look right here, we have our line and our neutral come right here, power the inverter. So we can go to the control board and find P33 should be a red wire, and P23, which should be a blue wire, and make sure we're getting 120 volts from our outlet all the way into the main control board into our connector on the control board that will feed our inverter. So let's go ahead and do that. So we gain access to the control board, which is up here behind the display interface. Anyways, these are labeled. Let me see if I can find an easy one for you guys to read. Here we go. Right here. Well, that's P8. That means this is P8. This is P1 over here. So if it said P8 3 red, we go to P8 and then 3, and this is a red wire. So that's what we'd be looking for. So anyways, the ones we were looking for were P33 red, P23 blue. Anyways, I have my multimeter hooked up to that. My multimeter is set to AC voltage, and my machine is plugged in. So we will turn it on and we will make sure we are getting 120 volts to that area. So we'll just turn it on. And we're on drain and spin. We want to check the spin, so we'll just push start. All right, 123. So we've got power to the wires that feed the inverter board. Now from the control board, this is what we checked on the board. Now these wires run to the inverter, and there's a little junction box right here that cover these connections. So anyways, we'll go down there, and where these connect, we will again put our multimeter probes into the red and blue and make sure we're getting 120 volts. That will tell us that we are getting 120 volts through these wires up into here, and then obviously into the converter. So that's just our next step, so we'll do that. So here's our junction box, which I already messed with, but anyways, you see the red and the blue right here. So again, set to AC voltage. We'll plug these in. Let me do that real quick. All right, as you can see, They're put in there. We'll turn this on. So we got the washer off now, finally. It acts up. And we'll go here to the drain and spin. We'll push start. We'll see if this reads anything. Okay, 120. So that's good. So, we know we have power from the wall into the main control to our, whatever you want to call these, our connections to the wires that lead eventually to our motor. So we know we've got 120 volts going into the inverter. So now what we are going to do is we are going to unplug the connections from the inverter to the motor. We'll unplug it. We will stick our probes in the end of the connection and we'll see if we're getting 120 volts. So that way we will know power comes in through here, comes into the main control board. We have power here, we have power here feeding this. Now it's going to go to the motor. We're going to unplug this and we will put our probes in here. Like I just said, make sure we have 120 traveling here. That way we'll know our motor is getting the proper voltage. Because if we've got power to the inverter and it's not getting to the motor, then that means we've got a problem in the middle. And obviously that middle would be here. Power here, no power here, or getting into this. Our problem would be the inverter. So let's check that out. So again, power from the wall comes in through here, works its way to the front, goes into the control board. And earlier we checked with this red and blue one that supplies our power to our inverter board. That was getting power up until this point. Now these wires, we followed all the way down into this junction box. We put our probes in here, made sure it's getting 120 volts. Now this is our inverter board, so we're getting 120 volts to our inverter board. Now, from our inverter board, we've got more wires coming up right here, and these connect into our motor. Now as you can see, I've already disconnected this, but this connects right into there. So these three, the two yellow ones we don't need to worry about, those are for a sensor. So our real power ones are coming from our red, white, and our blue. So what I'm gonna do, since I unplugged this, I'm going to stick my probes into either the red and white one or the red and blue one, doesn't matter. I'll probably just I'm gonna do the red and blue one. So anyways, I'll stick my probes into the red and blue one. We will run the spin cycle just like we were, because we got 120 volts all the way up into this point. We know the inverter's getting 120 volts, and so if 120 volts isn't coming out of it, that means we got a problem inside the inverter board. So that's what we're gonna try to do. And again, I only have two hands, so I'm gonna have to pause it for a second. So as you can see, I've got the probe stuck into the red and the blue one. And again, it looks like this is coming from the motor, but it's not. It's just clamped right here, so it's easier to plug into the motor. But these cords are coming from the inverter to the motor. So it's not connected to the motor at all. It's only connected to the inverter board. So anyways, come up here again. I've already got it on the drain spin. That's what we've been checking, so I'll push start. Okay, push start. See if anything happens. On all of our other tests at this point, it was already flashing 120 volts. So, yeah. And I'm by no means a professional, so I never hear the motor kick on. So for somebody who's more experienced than me, that may be a telltale sign that the motor is never getting power in the first place. So if I'm getting power that goes into the inverter board, that may be obvious to a lot of more seasoned technicians that that's a problem with the inverter board. That's just kind of my common sense that I'm assuming. But again, this has been running for a few minutes. Obviously the drain pump is turning on. But at this point, we got multiple flashes of 120 volts. So clearly our problem is in the inverter board. Now, one last thing you can do with your motor is, like I was showing you earlier, that connection right there. Not even the wires, but where it connects to up there. The bottom two little terminal connecting points, again, are for the sensor. The top three are more for the power for the motor. So what you can do just to double check your motor is change this from AC to ohms, and then connect these, and in between the red and the blue one, the blue and the white one, the white and the red one, you should be getting resistance through these, and it should be showing up. If you're not getting anything on there, then there's a good chance your motor's bad, or if you're not getting the proper amount of ohms, your motor's bad. But nonetheless, I had done that earlier and everything seemed to be normal on the motor. So again, everything's leading me to believe that it's this inverter board, and depending on the price of it, this washing machine may just be sold for parts.